Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the second part of Real Talk. I'm your host Iqbal Bana. I've been talking to Salma Rawat, who's come all the way from Leicester, to come and share with us the project that she leads and manages as Chief Executive Officer, called One Roof Leicester, which is a not-for-profit organization put together by a number of local charitable and other organizations to try and provide support to those who are the most vulnerable in the community. So she's been sharing with us some of the work that has been going on, providing accommodation for up to 40 people who come from all walks of life, all ethnicities, people of faith and people of no faith. Obviously it's an initiative that I think is needed in every town and city in this country, but obviously in Leicester, you've managed to get to the stage where you have set up an organization, a not-for-profit organization providing accommodation. You have 12 houses, you said. Now these houses that you have One Roof Leicester have bought or owned or rented, how do you get up to 12 houses?
So alhamdulillah, we've now got 3 houses that One Roof own.
Oh, right.
We've bought through fundraising and grants, but the other 9 are through long-term leases with landlords. So we've got, of them, 7 of those we've got on peppercorn rent. So people have either owned a house or have bought a house for us to use and said, here, you can have it on a 5 or 10-year lease and use it on a peppercorn rent, so they don't charge us rent basically. And 2 we've got on a very reduced rent.
So these are people who said, I've got a house and you can use it for the purpose that, providing people with accommodation, and I'm going to charge you too much rent.
Oh, no rent at all.
No rent at all.
7,
wow.
No rent at all. We don't pay rent.
Subhanallah. I mean, people like that need to be acknowledged, and say, well done to them. So, I mean, these people, are they people of faith, no faith? Are they, any particular community?
So it's a real mix. We've got, alhamdulillah, it's again through lots of networking and contacts, but we've got houses from the church, the church community. We've got a house from the Jewish community. A Hindu family have given us a house.
Wow.
So it's quite mixed.
Big question. How many Muslim people have done that?
We don't currently have a house from a Muslim community.
There you go. Another example of where we Muslims are failing in our duty of care for those most vulnerable in our community. And I've been saying this every program that I do. It's again another failure of the Muslim community, and particularly in Leicester, where we have such an affluent community.
Yeah.
And so very well organized Islamic community over there as well. I mean, coming to that particular bit about the Muslim community in Leicester and its contribution, how or are they engaged with One Roof Leicester as an institution? And I'll probably answer that. The answer will probably be no, not formally. Is that right, or am I wrong? Prove me wrong, please.
Alhamdulillah, I have a really good network of friends and contacts.
No, I'm not talking about friends. I'm talking about Leicester is blessed with a lot of Muslim organizations. And let's not beat around the bush around here. Some of the work, and all of the work that Salma does and her colleagues do, is about supporting the most vulnerable. Now, we have one of the most affluent communities in Leicester, like we have in Bradford as well, in other parts of the country. Now again, this is a singular failure on the part of the Muslim community, when we should be by all means concentrating to places like Syria and Lebanon and other places. But as the Prophet ﷺ said, charity begins at home. I think it's about time we start to refocus some of our donations away from those areas where they're needed. I'm not saying completely, but some proportion of that should now be targeted at those within our own communities, particularly as Salma says, that some of the users of the service are from the Muslim community, both male and female. So what do you think the Muslim community in Leicester needs to do? I mean, you have the, is it the Muslim Union of Muslim, Federation of Muslim Organizations. I mean, are they involved, or have you had discussions with them?
So again,
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot.
I know, I'm sorry about that. And
it is. I think
my question would be to them.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge for a lot of people is that there are so many causes, there are so many issues, and it's like, where do you support now? I think for someone, I think for an organisation like FMO, I think the challenge is that if they support one charity or one cause, what about all the others?
Oh yeah,
and I think that's where they would probably say, you know, is the challenge. And I think but again, I think it goes back to what you said earlier, is that our focus has now become so much on supporting charities, donating to charities that are working abroad, you know, whether it's a disaster relief or war-torn areas, that, you know, helping local charities has become less of a duty, less of a responsibility. I think the bigger charities have taken that responsibility away from us, and I think part of it is that we've forgotten that, exactly as you said, the Prophet ﷺ taught us that we had to help our local communities, our neighbours, our brothers and sisters who are struggling in our neighbourhoods first, before looking further afield. And one of the other things that I think sometimes we do tend to forget is that actually helping somebody who's homeless, helping somebody who's a refugee or an asylum seeker, is actually the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, but also he himself, as well as other prophets, became homeless in their lifetimes, were refugees, were asylum seekers in their lifetime.
Oh yes,
and
they were.
if those communities, if the people of Medina hadn't have opened their doors to the Prophet ﷺ, where would he have been? He spent with his family and friends, you know, a year in the desert, you know, in the mountains when they became homeless. So helping somebody who's homeless or destitute is also a sunnah. And I think we just forget about these examples.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, obviously, as I say, I mean, it's one of my bugbears that I think more and more of our Muslim institutions in this country, and I'm talking about the mosque and the madrasas, I'm not talking about the big charitable organizations, I'm talking about local organizations who help run mosques and madrasas. They do a fantastic job, there's no doubt about it. But I think they now need to extend their arm to the fellow human beings who live and, you know, work in that in our surrounding areas. Can I just ask very briefly, I mean, you obviously seen lots of people come through your service. By providing the support that you do, have you seen some real transformation taking place in people's lives? I mean, somebody who may come to you very vulnerable, has some issues, you've helped them, supported them, provided a roof over them, give them some shelter, and then hopefully, inshallah, they'll come out at the other end and totally transform their lives. Is that, I mean, I'm sure you've witnessed lots of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that we've helped that have, you know, we think, wow. So there was one example, so we had a man who was homeless, and he'd been homeless quite a few times, and at the time we had a night shelter. We don't do the night shelter anymore. And he came and he stayed in the night shelter, and at the end of the shelter we had a vacancy in one of our houses. So we gave him a room in one of the shared houses, and he stayed with us. And through that time we started looking at and addressing his issues. You know, we got him through sort of some mental health support, we got him help through some addiction, but we also managed to get him on a course, a security guard course, training course, and he successfully completed that.
Wow.
And then through that we, because he was so stable, we managed to help him to secure a new home. So he got a flat with the council. And then he was looking for a job. So we encouraged him to apply for one of the jobs we had at our night shelter. And so he then came to work for us. And he was actually working for us until COVID happened and we had to close the shelter. But alhamdulillah, we managed to then, you know, obviously give him good references. And one day when I was out shopping during COVID, in that very long queue outside the supermarket, he was the security guard on duty. So that was, you know, for one of the guys. But even for some of the women, we once had, you know, two sisters, Muslim sisters, who came to us. They were victims of honour-based violence, and we housed them and made sure we had a very safe and secure home for them. But again, through that time, you know, we worked on their asylum case, got them their residency status, and then eventually, you know, encouraged them to go into education. And alhamdulillah, both of them now working. One was, you know, got a really good job as a translator. Moved away from Leicester and is now, you know, married, which is really nice. And the other sister's still in Leicester, got independent living.
Some really good cases of people who benefited and who transformed their lives. And hopefully they've probably gone on to help other people as well now, inshallah.
And what's really nice is, especially with the Muslim, brothers and sisters we help, it's so nice when they give you their du'as. They leave you when they do, and they make dua for you and your family and for the others that have helped them. And that's all you can ask for, really, more than anything.
Definitely.
When somebody parts with du'as for you, you just think, alhamdulillah, it's so worth what you do.
Right, subhanallah. Obviously, we're coming to the end of the program now very soon. If somebody was to come to say, we'd like to set something like this up, what are the pitfalls that you'd ask them to be aware of?
I think firstly, make sure that it is a service that is needed in your area, because you don't want to be setting something up and then finding that there's already 10 other people doing the same thing.
Don't duplicate it.
Don't duplicate. And actually, if you can, work in partnership with others, other faith groups, then do that, But this work is hard. Obviously, we have to do a lot of fundraising.
How long have you been doing it?
So One Roof was formed in 2012, and I started working as an employee in 2013. So
it's quite
like
some
coming
time
up to I've been doing it for quite a long
10
time.
years.
And it does take it takes a long time. You don't get to this stage overnight. You've got to start and develop it quite slowly. But do ask others for help, and that's what's really nice working in this arena, is that other refugee asylum seeking projects or homelessness projects, they're all there to give you a helping hand. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to reinvent.
So you're not on your own.
Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I'm sure people watching will have been inspired by Salma and the work that she does and her colleagues do over in Leicester, and I'm sure initiatives like that are desperately required in other parts of our country as well. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it inspirational, and I hope that somebody will take this sort of initiative and maybe run with it in their own communities. I hope. Inshallah, I'll see you next week. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves. May Allah protect you and keep you safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.